So last time we kind of talked a little bit about AI programming, and seemed to be like the big thing that got a lot of buzz for us.
Okay.
So I wanted to sit down and kind of go over like what ChatGPT comes up with and see what we think about programming.
Okay.
I know obviously, right, like a lot of the AI programming uses stuff that's more in depth than the free version of ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's based on spreadsheets and uses the word AI, even though it's just Excel, which, whatever works. So this isn't just a full-on like indictment on AI programming necessarily, but kind of a good exercise to see.
Yeah. I think it could maybe give you some good insight on like how to get started. I mean, and especially if you're very, very new to powerlifting, but we'll see what it
Have you messed around with this at all?
I have. I think I have put in before like Powerlifting Program, but like I didn't get super specific with it.
Yeah.
But I think it just gave me like some general structure, and I think it went more of like a traditional model, hypertrophy, kind of strength, peaking, stuff like that. From what I remember, but I didn't get like super in depth on it. But yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've seen too. And I think some people I know have used it to like do that, right, and then refined it further by saying add another bench there, add that human touch.
Yeah.
And using it that way is, I think, not the worst way to do it, right?
Yeah.
I have a friend who is a teacher who will remain nameless for his job, but he uses it to generate like lesson plans. But then from there can kind of distinguish as, all right, that's kind of junk, this is what's actually important, and kind of just give them ideas and get it flowing. I think using it for coaching, kind of the same base of getting the idea started and then adjusting.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if it's like, I mean, when I was going to school, it was always like, if you had an online class, you would always look up the answers. So on Google, I wonder if people, I'm sure they're using this now to even like help write papers or anything like that.
If ChatGPT existed while I was in school, I'd be so done. I would know nothing.
Yeah. I have a friend who's in college right now, and he's like, yeah, we use this a lot.
Everything.
Yeah.
It's good, man. It works well. So, I think we'll kind of just start off basic and then refine as we go. So
sounds good.
Let's see what happens if we just ask it to write me a powerlifting program.
10 by 10.
So knowing nothing about me.
Here's a beginner intermediate 12-week program.
Dang, it's going in.
Oh, it's right, an entire 12
We're going
weeks.
12-week blocks already.
Right off the bat.
But remember, it's just a basic template. All right, so let's see. So it's going weeks 1 to 4. I kind of like that it actually breaks it up into 4-week cycles.
Yeah.
Squat focus, just 5 by 5 width, just a weight that challenges you but allows proper form.
No RP, no percentage, no nothing.
No.
Okay? That's so subjective.
Yeah. But like rep schemes, I mean, on rep schemes, exercise selection, all that is pretty similar to what I'm programmed. I like a top set, but pretty similar.
Bench about the same.
Yeah, so it seems to kind of just regurgitate 4 by 8 for that next accessory.
Yeah.
Deadlift, is that the slightly heavier weight? Slightly heavier than what?
Slightly heavier weight. Is that the first?
That's the first deadlift day. Just slightly heavier. And then squat. Yeah, I kind of like having, a volume day there.
Okay, so there's like a little bit of a DUP there. I think they started, it was 5 by 5 on squat and then now
bench.
This would be like, your hypertrophy, I guess.
Yeah.
Volume day for both.
Yeah.
How many days a week does it have you do
4.
Romanian deadlift though?
Oh, yeah.
You do it on...
Right after your squat and then again
on day 3 and then again on day 4.
Damn, dude, my hamstrings would tear.
3 days of RDLs.
3 days of RDLs. You let me do RDLs once a week and then like leg curls twice a week, and that second day I'm like dying, dude.
I do RDLs. I've pushed RDLs pretty heavy before. But yeah, it was always supplement to my regular conventional deadlift.
Yeah.
And
if you're pulling conventional, man, a day of conventional, 3 days of RDLs plus squatting twice a week.
Yeah, because it doesn't specify. It just says deadlift. So it could be someone who pulls conventional or sumo, depending. But yeah, if it's someone who pulls conventional, they're probably going to fall apart.
Maybe it's someone who's just trying to build a dumpy, dude. All that RDL volume.
Oh, that's a lot.
That's brutal.
And every session, it's 3 sets of 8 or 4 sets of 8.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I do like, though, how it's getting squat twice a week, bench twice a week. Like
that's a good start for sure.
Pretty solid for most people.
Yeah.
No deload, right? Just jumps straight into the next block and doesn't really give any progression week to week, right? Again, we didn't give it too much direction, so fair enough.
And then looks like on this
now
one.
we're moving to, wait.
Yeah, it went up a little bit of reps.
So just on the assistance day, everything else stays the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the squat reps went up. So instead of doing a 5x5, you went 4x6.
No, this is the assistance day, so it's going from...
Oh, that's day 4. Day 4, you're right. Okay. Oh, so it did just drop off a rep, so it's probably good.
It was 3 sets, right? Yeah. So we dropped off 2 reps from each set and add an extra set. It kind of cancels each other out a little bit, if not making it a little bit harder, because you can actually go heavier with an extra set, right? A little more rest time. And now we got pull-ups instead of dumbbell rows, because that's really important to switch, I guess. All right. And then, yeah, very interesting. It's only adjusting that day 4. Everything else stays the same, so...
Okay, so it just wants you to repeat what you did, but just try to increase the weight. Interesting. Okay.
And then, really interesting that it goes on your volume day is now 5x4, so it's heavier than your 5x5 day.
Yeah.
Very weird. But, I mean, it's not bad. Like, you would get stronger doing this. If
for sure.
You're getting stronger.
Yeah, right? For sure. So, and you probably don't, again, if you're new to training, like, less than a year in, you probably don't have that much weight on the bar anyway.
Right.
So it's like, it kind of goes back, I think we talked about this a little bit on the last podcast about PH3.
Yeah.
Right? Where that one was like, if you were new, you probably could handle it, but like, I plugged in my current numbers, and I think I would die on day 1. It was like a 2x9 at like, somewhere above like, close to 80% on a squat. I'm like, dude, I would probably do like 4 reps. So yeah, again, if you don't have a ton of weight on there, you probably can get away with doing this and still make some decent progress, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, my biggest issue is just that insane amount of RDL volume, like on the entire hamstring, right?
Yeah.
So let's see if we just ask it to... I do like it takes note though, balanced diet, stay hydrated and all that, but let's ask it to drop off some hamstring volume, reduce hamstring and RDL volume. Let's see if it knows what that is. All right.
Okay.
So now we're doing 3x6. Yeah.
Still doing it?
Pretty much everything's the same, but it did drop the RDL volume. So if you're kind of using this as a base and have enough knowledge to make the adjustments on your own, but just don't want to go through like the mental effort of thinking it out and writing it out, maybe not the worst, right? Oh, my hamstring hurts. Hey, pull back RDL volume. If you can make those adjustments yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it could definitely give you some recommendations for sure. Again, I think the only downside too is like, it's not providing any like RPE or RIR here. You know? So it's like, you don't really know. RPE. Like, do I hit 5 sets, 4 reps at RPE 10? Certainly.
Add in rating of perceived exertion.
Okay.
That's crazy.
There we go.
And it explains what the scale is. Wow, and it'll add it for each exercise. All right, let's let it finish writing, and then we'll take a look at what each thing is. So weeks 1 to 4. No. Yeah, it's adding it all.
Looks like it's having you hang out in that super sub-max for everything though. Yeah. Across the board.
Weeks 1 to 4. And it's so for 4 weeks straight, you're hitting RPE 7. It's saying incrementally add weight, but then you should be at the same RPE, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah, probably not. It's like almost like a RTS kind of structure, but they're like they do like static RPE, but it's like they start pretty high exertion, like RPE 8, and it kind of stays there throughout the same block.
So would they stay at the same weight?
So in theory, they're trying to find like what week you're strongest on, right? So if I wrote it like a 4-week block for you, right? We start week 1 at RPE 8, see what weight you take there. But I think the downside with that is like, are people actually going to come in and hit an RPE 8 single on week 1, right? Like knowing that potentially in their mind, like, oh, I'm going to go heavier next week. So you might slightly like sandbag that week 1 because you're knowing you're going to go up. So I think a lot of it is going to have to like be on that mental side. If you know the athlete, like they will come in and hit a true RPE 8 single.
Right.
And see how that feels next week. And I think they're trying to find when your strength feels the best on what week of the block. That way it's like predictable, like when you do a meet. So like say you're like 4 weeks out, okay, his strength peaks nicely on that 4th week, right? So like we know he's going to feel the strongest on that day. That's where I've seen like some static RPE stuff.
So it's more of like a research to see where that fits strongest rather than an actual strength progression.
Yeah.
weeks.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's actually really interesting.
Yeah. I like more like dynamic structure, like, RP, like 5 to 6, then 7. I mean, I do have some exercises that stay static throughout the block. I'm sure you've seen with some of like your bench days, especially if you're a very high frequency bencher. Sometimes I don't even ramp the like intensity on maybe like that 4th bench session of the week, depending on where it was or where it is. Like I bench 4 times a week, and I have probably like 2 out of the 4 days where the RP just stays static throughout the block. So if I feel good on that given day, then I'll take 2.5 more than I did last week, but I'm still always trying to hit that RPE. So I think a lot of it messes with me sometimes too, though, like, cause like as athletes, we don't want to like pull it back, right? Like we were like, but I hit more last week, or I hit less last week, so I should be able to hit more. But sometimes I just come in feeling a little bit more fatigued. So like, I just be like, okay, I'm going to take less because like that's not my primary session of the week, instead of trying to force some progression there.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like you give me often like an RP6 or RP7 on my secondary bench day, or my tertiary bench day, really. And for me, if that primary bench day I'm going 10, 20 kilos heavier than I did at the beginning of the block, I'm way more fatigued by the time I get to that tertiary bench day. So I have to pull back or at least keep it the same. Yeah,
and I think that's a conversation too you have to have with the athlete. Like, hey, it's okay to take the same weight 2 weeks in a row, It's definitely like fucks with your mind a little bit, because like, we're powerlifters and we want to push the progression on everything.
1 week of not getting better makes us have a meltdown,
Yeah, exactly. But like my coach, the way he put it one time, because I made that mistake where I was kind of pushing every bench session, right? And I told him, I'm going to go for a PR on my Larson press. And he's like, just keep in mind, do you care more about that Larson PR, or do you care more about like maybe potentially hitting a bigger weight on like your primary day? So he basically like put it into perspective, and I'm like, all right, fine, I won't PR my Larson. But
that's probably what's going on here, though, right? Like for me, right, RP7, not super hard, but if you give me 4 weeks straight of RP7, like I'm going to build up some fatigue, I'm going to build up some soreness, right? And so like maybe not on my squat or something that I'm really pushing, but like an RDL, 4 weeks of RDL, again, still 3 times a week, right? I'm probably doing less weight by that 4th week, to be totally honest. Like if I'm really trying to stick to a true RP6. So not necessarily the greatest there. Again, I really don't like that it leaves just like everything the same except your assistance day for 12 weeks. As much as you're like the biggest proponent I know of keeping things consistent, this is overkill even for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I still will vary like rep ranges from time to time, like unless like I see someone like really thriving on a certain rep range. But generally, it's like I do make some slight adjustment as we kind of get deeper in a block.
Even if it's just to keep the athlete in it mentally and not like, oh my god, 3 months of the same exact
100%.
shit.
100% for sure. Powerlifting is very monotonous.
Yeah. What if we give it a little more direction and see if we can kind of give what we want? Write me a powerlifting program. We both train 5 days a week, right?
5 days a week, yeah.
That is 5 days a week. With 3 bench days is probably solid. 2 squat days and 1 deadlift day. Yeah, that's usually what we'd start most people at. 3 bench days might be a lot, but again,
maybe like 2 there, but
And I'm kind of curious to see what it would do. Include RPE for each exercise. And what if it peaks him for a meet?
Yeah, you could put for a powerlifting competition or peaking for a meet.
Watch. Let's see.
I'm going to start writing everybody's program. Write a program for Alex.
It's going to be great, man. I'll be all set. 40-hour work week's now going to be a day. Oh, nice. We're now down, instead of adding just more work, we're just down to 3 exercises per day. So, dude, honestly, if you ever give me this shit where it's like come in to do, I mean, I guess it's a 5x5, so it's a decent amount of total volume, but come in to do bench, close grip dips, and go home. I'm not warming up. I'm not taking program. I'm not doing all this shit just to come into the gym and be done in like 45 minutes.
That's a lot of pressing on a day.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
especially dips. I mean, like we
sets.
push them pretty hard. Close grip, That's a lot.
I do like the inclusion of close grip, but 4 sets after a 5x5, like my elbows are gonna explode. Maybe
squat and then front squat.
Front squat is a stupid exercise for powerlifting. You tend to agree on that?
Yep, I do. The only time I ever program a front squat is if it's like super limited equipment, and that's kind of like our only option. Maybe for whatever reason we can't push like 2 days of comp squatting, right? Like actually I have a kid right now who pushes a front squat. He just trains literally like he has the bare minimum. He trains like I think in his garage or his basement.
So no SSB.
No SSB. He had access to an SSB, so we were pushing SSB. Doesn't have access to it anymore because started going to school. So I was just like, if you're cool, if you've done front squats before, and he was like, yeah, I've done them before. I was like, okay, let's do a front squat. And that's the only other reason. But I most likely would opt for like a high bar or something like that. He was getting a ton of like back pumps from the high bar. So it was SSB, then high bar, and the high bar we didn't really have that good success. He was also a conventional puller, so it was kind of all bleeding together. So I'm just like, let's give the front squat a try and see how it kind of goes. It's been going fine, but I'd much rather opt for an SSB for sure.
And if someone is a high bar squatter, then it's like we only have so many options for variation from there if they don't have access to an SSB or something. So maybe, but most of the time you're going to be, especially as a powerlifter, right? We're not the most athletic, and we're not the most on top of our mobility, like maybe an Olympic weightlifter. Most powerlifters are going to be super limited by mobility on front squat, like my wrist, shoulder, elbow, all that's going to get out of the way before my quads.
I don't remember the last time I tried to even get into a front rack position, to be honest.
Front squat at 385 back in the day.
385?
385?
Oh my god. Like this?
Yeah. No, it was actually, I had mobility at that time. Yeah. That was 30 pounds ago though.
I've seen like this one. I've seen
like
the straps.
Yep. I tried it the other day just messing around, and no, front rack does not exist anymore.
Super impressive lift, I think. I think it looks cool.
It does. It does.
It's like a high bar squat. It looks very aesthetically pleasing.
Not as cool as sumo though, right?
Yeah.
All right, so then moving on to squat. I also personally, it's probably because I wrote bench first just when I was typing it up, just so I was thinking things out. But I personally like to squat before I bench, but I guess with 3 benches a week, you kind of got to adjust. Some incline dumbbell stuff, good to see in there. Some pull-ups. The idea of coming in to do 3 exercises, man, like...
Yeah, it's very, very low.
Yeah.
And it's also like the same, it's a lot of like the... Honestly, this kind of reminds me a little bit of Mr. Zach Bartell programming. Like, you know, he would have you do like a ton of like comp work, right?
Yep.
And then a ton of like variation work after. Like one, off the top of my head right now, I can remember is like when he was writing my training for a bit, he had me do like regular comp squats, probably like a 4x8 or something like that. And then right after would be like some type of variation, whether it was like a pin squat, template squat, high bar squat. So it was a lot of volume. So like this just kind of gave me flashbacks. Like I got stronger, but it definitely would kill you. Especially like the stronger you got. Yeah. For sure.
It'd be like every workout was something like 4x8 on the main movement, 3x6 on a variation, and then like a compound variation like a leg press or something, or dumbbell bench.
And super high rep too, like 12 to 15 reps on those accessories.
A back movement and then arms, or calves or abs or whatever it is. Right? Yeah.
So this kind of gave me flashbacks.
Definitely. But at least that was like 5 exercises, man. Like the hardest part for me as a coach, right, is getting my clients in the gym. Every client who's in the gym does well once they're here. Getting them in the gym is the toughest part. Trying to motivate someone, hey, I need you to get in the gym, I need you to push it, to come in for 3 exercises.
For sure.
Good luck. They're going to be combining days, then they're now not following the program. The fatigue is way thrown off from what was predicted, and there's issues.
That's actually what I tell clients sometimes too, on like the opposite side of the spectrum, is like I'll have clients who like want to train like 6 days a week.
Right.
And like I kind of talk them off that because like what I tell them is like, dude, I work here and I'm here and I only train 5 days a week, dude. Like no way. Like I'm like, you probably handle it for a little bit, but it just doesn't give you any like wiggle room to like move things around, right? Like your life's gonna kind of get in the way. You know, you work an 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, or you got plans on the weekend, whatever the case may be. So I'm always like, let's start with like 4 to 5. I always want to start with 4. I tell most people like 4 is very like reasonable for most people. Sometimes even 3, like that, and that's okay. You're gonna make progress on it. But yeah, it's hard. It would be very difficult to try to have someone to come in here and all you're gonna do is 3 exercises and go home. You know?
So it's 6 days too, man. It's like you said, it's not predictable because that 6th day gets moved around or skipped often, and so it's not predictable and repeatable. I play the mental game often. Shout out my client Will Huebner. I've messed with him fully. I'll admit this openly. Like, he was like, I need to train 6 days. I just mentally need it. Yeah. I gave him the shittiest, stupidest sick day ever so that he would stop doing it. Like, it was like sled drags, a million mobility drills, and like maybe 2 like arm exercises or something. So it was like, this day is dumb. He's not going to want to do it. And then he eventually was like, all right, 5 works. It works. I tricked him, but hey, we're getting stronger, man.
Yeah. So it's like overkill.
6 heavy. Overkill, exactly.
Yeah.
I really like how, almost missed it, but this first 4 weeks, right, it's everything's good. It's like RP 6, 7. Again, I like to see week-to-week progression, doesn't have it. But then bench is 3x3 at 9. If you give me 4 weeks of 3x3 RP 9, I'm tearing something.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, man, that's the other thing. I'm not saying that coaches don't allow for any error or overshooting or risk of injury, but I think some people just go, oh, AI is smart, AI knows better than us. And if you jump straight into this as a beginner and you go, 4 weeks at RP 9, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do, and then you get hurt, there's no one to talk you off that ledge, no one to kind of give you some voice of reason. Yeah. It's a little scary.
Yeah. Well, I saw some, not to name names or the AI program, but recently there was a guy doing some AI stuff, and he had to hit a weight, I think, on squat, and he had never even hit it for 1 rep, and it was programmed, I think, for like a set of 5 or 4, I can't remember. And he told his spotter, like, hey, I've never hit this weight ever in my entire life, so I'm going to go for 4 reps. And I think he got 1, and it was an RP 10, and then racked it. And then
at least he was smart enough to rack it, man. Because that's what I worry about. This seems so absolute. It's like, oh, well, the AI said I should be able to get 5, so I'm going to try. Like, you know what I mean? And if you're not in a powerlifting gym with legit spotters around you, it gets a little sketchy.
Yeah. Also, the RP is just like very subjective too. I think it's a hard thing for newer lifters to. I mean, that's one of the things for sure. Like when I work with like a newer lifter, is they're either like really overshooting things or they're like really undershooting things, and they kind of really struggle. And then the only way you get better at it is obviously by lifting and practice and stuff like that. So like if you have a beginner at an RP like 9, it's like it might go like really sandbagged, or it might be like close to RP 10.
Yeah, man, totally agree. The RPE stuff is really tough to gauge for beginners. I also don't like, well, I'm split here. To give it credit, right, the old school Zach Bartel programming from the Juggernaut days was like sets of 8, sets of 10 in that hypertrophy phase, and then dropping sets of 5 in weeks 5 through 8. I don't like that it basically gives you 2 blocks the exact same back-to-back while getting ready for a meet. However, to give it some credit, we do see like DUP stuff utilized, which, I mean, just 5-10 years ago was like some weird offshoot crazy, that doesn't work, right? DUP being daily undulating periodization, basically like the old school method for anyone who's unfamiliar was like, if you're in hypertrophy, everything is hypertrophy. Main movements, everything. Then in strength, everything is strength. So like it'd be sets of 8, then sets of 5, and then peaking was like sets of 3. We see sets of 3, we see sets of 8, at least on some of the accessories, sets of 6, right? So it's kind of getting in that daily undulating periodization off the jump, which I think is good. I don't like tweaking into the second block. But what do you think there?
I wonder what it would look like if you actually like gave it. Say we do have some 1 rep maxes. Like would it change if you plugged in like, hey, write me a program with a max of I don't know 405 squat 315.
It does get you to a double, three doubles at 9.5. Dude, you give me 3 doubles at 9.5. The third one is gonna be like you're 70%. I'm so tired.
I think you're gonna either that first set is actually gonna be a true 9.5, and then you're gonna drop it off because you know that next one's not going to be a 9.5.
Yeah.
Or the first one's gonna be not a true 9.5, and then you're gonna go up. You're gonna ascend a little bit, but
it's also very interesting. It actually doesn't have you take singles for anything. Or bench, you have two singles for some reason. And that's it. But nothing else. That's super interesting, and I would say wrong. And make sure to have proper deload periods, but it just doesn't tell you when.
Yeah.
But hey, there we go. This is where we come in. Recommend a coach or lifter review and monitoring program. Cool. Add in weights for me. Maxes of, let's say, 500 on squat. I guess we're talking more beginner, right? So let's go like 315 on squat, 225 on bench.
We'll do the milestone list.
And 405 on deadlift, baby. Classic.
the ones we all strived for in the beginning. The first time I squatted 315, I got pinned. It was at a Gold's Gym. I literally came down to the pins, it wasn't even like a power rack. I unracked 315.
Was it one of those shitty squat racks?
With my Nike Romeos, my SBD knee sleeves, my Inzer belt, ready, dude. Went right down, didn't come back up, and just got out from under it, super embarrassed. Everyone was just like looking. I was just like, yeah, let's take these off.
First time I did it was I smoked 315 in the high school weight room. I'm hyped. I squatted more than the heavyweights on our team. It's a bad sign we didn't lift enough, right? But I'm hyped. I weighed like $150 at the time. Stoked. I'm like, that was so fucking easy. Let's go up. I put 2.5 on 320. Face plant, dude. God. Thank God I had the safety pins up because literally just boom, straight forward. Like I think I bent the safety pins. They were 50-year-old safety pins, so I probably shouldn't have relied on them anyway. Yeah, that was the rustiest, nastiest, most sketchy weight room I've ever been in my life. But okay, at least like weight-wise, this doesn't seem nuts, right? Like a 5x5 at 190 based off a 225 max, RP7.
Okay, yeah, so this is definitely a step in the right direction.
I have no idea how it's getting your front squat max based on your squat max. I would say there's not a ton of correlation there, but hey.
I think that would be really hard. What do we set the squat at? 315 and then a 4x6 at a 240 front squat?
That's tough.
Kind of difficult, especially if you've never front squatted.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely. And again, so then it's telling you to incrementally increase the weight, but like for 4 weeks, that's tough. But it's not. I mean,
this is definitely better. It kind of gives you some weight recommendation for sure of kind of where you should kind of be.
Yeah. And again, same kind of rep schemes, but yeah, not bad on the weight.
Yeah. Well, bench press 240 for a double at RP 9.5.
Yeah.
I think it assumes that you're getting stronger as the training goes on. But
yeah. Interesting. Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's not terrible. This is kind of basic peaking. I kind of want to get weird with it and just see what happens. If we write just like Powerbuilding Program, the old school Mike O'Hearn Powerbuilding style, I wonder what it'll give us. Powerbuilding. Me, jacked, and strong AF. See if it likes my profanity.
Absolutely.
It knows what power building is. That's cool. Volume, baby. Yep. There we go.
Squat 4x8, deadlift, let me guess, 4x8. Push emphasis, okay.
So we're going basically upper, lower, push, pull. Okay, so it's going 4 days a week. Not bad. Some face pull, seated rows. At the very least, like exercise selection, other than the front squats, this seem to be pretty standard. Like it's not given anything super weird.
Calf raises.
Don't need those. Calves are genetic. Okay, everyone knows it.
That's definitely the one you don't see in powerlifting program.
Yeah, hell no. I trained calves 4 days a week, and it did nothing. I did that for 6 months, and it did nothing. So I gave up.
I don't remember the last time I did a calf raise, to be honest. It's so I can get smaller knee sleeves on. That's really why.
That makes sense, honestly. Yeah.
That's why I don't train them. So I can squeeze into extra small knee sleeves.
Dude, my legs are just cone shaped. There's no calf and big ass quads, so it just pushes the knee sleeve down every 2 sets.
It gets cut off like right here, not even above your quad.
Yeah. It's not terrible though. Again, you could ask it to give you weights, and it would probably do kind of the same thing. But I don't mind kind of some of this stuff. I do think like power building is kind of overused, right? I think we kind of program whether someone's goal is just get strong, lose weight, or gain muscle. If you gain muscle, you'll get stronger. Yep. If your goal is to lose weight, then you want to try to maintain muscle to increase your metabolism or maintain your metabolism. Again, we're going to program a decent amount of accessory stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just like the new age of powerlifting is like we want to look like we lift, right? Yeah. Like I think also that before people used to just think of powerlifters as like, these like super huge, fat slobs basically, that you just eat to get as big as possible. Yeah. But now like you see some of these powerlifters, and they literally look like if they did like an actual true bodybuilding program, you know, they could probably step on a stage, you know. They actually like look like they lift, you know. So I think it's shifted for sure. You know, we're doing more high rep sets on, you know, accessories and stuff like that for sure. Yeah.
Dude, I remember the first time I saw like what I thought of as like the stereotypical old school powerlifter. It was at a 24 Hour Fitness. The dude had elbow wraps on, slingshot, whole deal. Literally eating a carton of ice cream, like a gallon, with a spoon in between sets. It's in a hot ass 24 Hour Fitness. It's like liquid, and dude does like a triple on bench and just scarfs down strawberry ice cream. Another trip was like, what the fuck is going on?
I think also too, like one thing that I can think about is like post like weigh-ins, more with like 24-hour weigh-ins. Like people would go immediately, and I probably did this because I think I did one USPA meet, and I immediately went and got the biggest meal possible, probably with like 100 grams of fat. And I think I remember, you're like dehydrated, you haven't really eaten that much, you've been fasting, and then you just put like an influx of like 2,000 calories into your body. I couldn't move after that, and I tried my best to just keep putting liquids down because I needed to get back up. But it was the worst mistake I could have made. Like where now it's like much more of a science, right? It's just like, especially with like 2-hour weigh-in, because like you wouldn't want to eat like this 1,000-calorie meal of just like fat and protein, because that's not going to do anything for you, but just make you feel terrible. So like now it's all like, you know, carbs, rice, you know, Pedialyte, Gatorade, whatever you choose. But yeah, that's like a big mistake I see. I still see some people do that, is like consume these super high calorie things post weigh-ins, and I'm just like, you're not going to feel great.
I remember it was actually the first SoCal meet I did before I ended up getting hired. And I was smart enough to do carbs, luckily, but like not smart enough to eat stuff that sat well in my stomach, right? So like my body composition was where it was because of rice, stuff like that. And then I'm binging Oreos, donuts, all that shit. But it was at least mostly carbs. Ended up having a decent meet, but like literally warming up, it was like, I can't do a set of 5 or I will throw up. I'm doing singles all the way up. And I just bloated as shit. But under the bar for that one first rep, I felt fucking great. Double, I was gonna throw up. So
it's like, people make a mistake of eating like things that they haven't eaten in a really long time, and it's just like, just stick to what you normally eat. Just eat a little bit more of it. That's all it is. You know?
Seriously.
Because then you'll feel like shit. For sure.
I wonder if it knows like I wonder what it'll do if we ask it to write a conjugate program.
Oh, conjugate.
Here's your chance to go on a soapbox, dude. Thoughts on conjugate?
It's funny because I was thinking about that literally right now when we were talking about fat slobs.
Inspired.
I'm sure you've seen the West Side barbell. I think that stuff is like the reason like powerlifting is here because of that, right? Like they paved the way, right? 100%. And like I still think like we take some of their ideas. It's just a little bit different, right? Like, you know, they do speed work. We probably do like RP6 or, you know, sub max stuff, right? But I remember watching that documentary, and I can't remember the name of the exact guy. I think he was probably like the best guy to come out of West Side. He had like all these records. And he was at a powerlifting meet, and I think he was warming up, or like in between attempts, he had an oxygen mask, and like I just thought to myself, I'm like, that's probably not very healthy. Like if you need an oxygen mask after one rep, like I think you need to reevaluate what we're doing here. You know, it's like, obviously powerlifting is like not the most healthiest. Like if you take it to the extreme, right? Like, you know, you're going to make some sacrifices for sure. But if like, it's not that hard that you're going to need an oxygen mask. Like we're not running like crazy. It's like literally one rep. But again, West Side, like nothing against them, but it's just like they definitely paved the way for new age like raw power.
Well, and it's just again, it was in suits, right? It wasn't raw. They were using gear and on gear, right? On a ton of steroids. Plus other drugs. Most of them were pushing so hard that they got hooked on painkillers or other kind of opioids to compensate for everything. And then it's just this like constant science experiment of adding this, taking out this, and it's so far removed from like regular human physiology at that point. Between again the assistance gear that they're training for, right, with bands and shit like that, and then just like literally at a biological level, your hormones don't look anything like a typical human at that point, or maybe. Your nervous system, any of that does, right? With all the stimulants and everything else. So does that really apply to like a typical raw lifter coming out of college? Probably not.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But it's fun as fuck, dude.
Oh, it is fun.
I used to train Westside. I wish that shit worked. I can't say I used to train Westside conjugate style, right? Not that insane. I was carrying down dumbbells at 24 Hour Fitness and putting bands up to it and shit. Yeah. But it's fucking fun. It's a new thing every day. If one thing's taken, you just fuck it. New variation, I'll try this. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
I just wish I could actually get strong that way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is. Especially, I mean, if you're a newer lifter too, you could, again, going back, like, probably not a ton of weight on the bar. You could probably handle, doing this. But then it's like, once you get stronger, it's like that high exertion all the time, every week in and out, even though it's a variation, is very taxing, for sure.
For sure. And it's like, I was more confident at like, pause front squats than I was at low bar. I did it more times a week. So, or like banded floor press or shit like that, right? But yeah, it seems like it has a pretty good understanding though of the training methodology of conjugate, with max effort stuff, going through an accumulation phase first. At least the terminology is right? Working up to a heavy single. Again, 3 exercises a day, not my favorite, but hey, if you're going full conjugate, Westside, you're bought in. We got dynamic effort squats with a 10x2, dude. Hell yeah, 10x2.
I remember doing those in a commercial gym for sure. Yep.
Max effort deadlifts with some variation. Just you fucking pick. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do. Rack pulls, deficits. Yeah. Who cares? Working up to a heavy single or triple. Fuck it. Whatever you feel like today. But honestly, that kind of is like the Westside method, right? Like, as long as you're pushing hard, and again, these guys are in suits and on so much gear, as long as you're pushing hard, you will get stronger. Reverse hyperextensions, face pulls. They love their face pulls. No sled work in here or GPP work, which I'm surprised because Westside guys love that stuff too. But not bad. Yeah, and then it peaks. And hey, at least this one does actually get you to a heavy single. Now, do I think that doing a heavy single incline or board press, maybe board press, but definitely not incline, is going to translate to getting ready for a meet? Probably not.
Incline's hard though. Incline is hard. That is a very humbling movement for a lot of people anytime I program it, for myself included.
Why'd you program me close grip incline?
That one's even harder. But I remember unrocking like a red on an incline and I was like, holy shit. Alright, we're going to put on 5 more kilos. That's a very humbling movement. I pushed it for a very long time and I think I got like the highest I got to was like 102, 105 and that was hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, anytime I program it, I don't program it a ton just because like, unless like it's a really, really new lifter where they could just overall just get bigger, get stronger, right? It's also just a hassle to kind of set that thing up.
Hassle to set up, and like in terms of hypertrophy stimulus, you can probably get the same from an incline dumbbell, which is probably going to feel better on your elbows too, because you're not flared out like crazy.
For sure. I much rather opt for like an incline dumbbell just for more hypertrophy reasons.
Much.
But I have programmed it from time to time.
Bulgarians, face pulls, a lot of face pulls, but that's accurate. It understands conjugate, which is kind of interesting. Still like the same criticisms I would give like conjugate written by a conjugate coach. But I actually like this a little bit better than the earlier stuff we looked at, just because one, it kind of it pushes some type of progression, and it also just gives you like that 50 to like 60%. So like if that person does have like a 1 rep max or something heavy that they could potentially go off of, they'll be like, okay, like 50 to 60% of maybe like something heavy that I have. So definitely like right off the bat with like not a ton of information, gave you a little bit more in my opinion of like kind of where to start on some of the stuff. Juan switching to Westside, guys. You heard it here first.
Yep. So everyone's going to get box squats with the cambered bar.
Hell yeah.
Reverse bands.
Yep.
Deadlift.
Yep.
And slingshot floor press. That's my favorite.
Slingshot floor press is
not to name any coaches, but I did coach a guy for a while who got coached by somebody who had a slingshot floor press programmed.
Slingshot floor press is a good one. I really like snatch grip block pulls, basically just conventional. Maybe a little bit more upper back, but pretty similar.
I would joke with him all the time and tell him, I'm like, did your coach just kind of like just spin a wheel and was like, what variations are we putting together today? Yeah. So that's what it looked like to me. It was like so strange, and every week was like something different.
It's a random wheel with like bar type, bands, chains, or straight weight, and reps, and just spins it, see what it lands on.
And I mean, he got really strong in his first meet, had a great first meet, and then never got back to that after that. Had like 2 down meets where just the shit didn't work anymore. But yeah, that was my favorite, by far my favorite. Slingshot floor press. He might have even had a Duffalo bar in there as well too. I can't remember exactly, but that one was
Duffalo bar to increase range of motion, floor press to decrease it. Now we're back at a regular bench
press. And the slingshot to stop before the
slingshot kicks in. Just took your elbows, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah,
strange stuff. But,
SSB front squat's another classic too.
That's another classic.
It's a cambered bar, so in an SSB the weight's in front of you. Now it's SSB front squat. Now the weight's back behind you.
Yep.
Congrats, you've done a back squat. Good
job. I think a lot of people just kind of try to be like
different,
too different sometimes, which is different is okay, but it's just like when you get too far, especially like with like raw powerlifting, it's like, and you've seen like we push a lot of just like regular competition style lifting. Every now and then I will program some variations, but I don't steer away too far from like the actual movement, unless like it's maybe like post meet and we're really just trying to maybe have some fun with training or something like that. But I think people just kind of try to like distinguish themselves way too much, and I was just like, just kind of stick to the bread and butter, and then make small adjustments from time to time. But
and what's the client's goal? Like if the client's goal is to have fun, right? Like shout out Chris McKenna, right?
Yeah.
When he's done with the meet, he'll do some random bullshit in the gym just to have fun.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. Like I get that.
Yeah.
The lifter you were talking about earlier was super competitive, right? And really wanted to hit something really heavy in a meet, like year round. His goal was just the next meet.
Yeah.
Why is that guy doing weird non-conscious stuff?
Yeah, for sure.
I gotta try. I doubt it's gonna give us anything, but as far as what we do with coaching powerlifting, it's really programming. What some coaches do with coaching is drug protocol.
Oh, drug protocol.
I gotta see what it gives us. Give me a steroid cycle. There's no way it works, right?
That's in. I wonder if it will.
Good.
Sure it will.
Strong. Jacked. He's probably gonna say it's illegal. Oh. Nice. Misspelled jacked. No steroids.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So the steroid coach still got a job at least.
That's good. Yeah.
We'll
I really thought I was going to spit something out. I mean, you could probably just Google it, but I thought it really was going to spit something out. That's good.
Hilarious.
It's good.
Yeah. I mean, I think it has its place. Overall, AI can give you kind of that structure to work off of. Again, I think seeing it be refined over time would really help, right? Like, I guess we could ask for more weekly progression, stuff like that, but when it starts pulling out the hamstring volume, when you can kind of make those adjustments on your own in real time, it's not necessarily a bad place to get started. I don't think it's going to be the best for a lifter because, again, there's no one there to check you and make those adjustments. 90% of what you program me, I fucking hate. But it works. I need you to program that shit for me. I'm the lifter, like you said, lifters will consistently over undershoot. I overshoot. Like, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm probably going to overshoot today. Sorry about it. But so I need you to check me, right? Like when you write me that cap, I'm going 2.5, 5 kilos over it. It is what it is. It's part of the plan. If I'm in charge of myself, I'm going to be like, well, ChatGPT said I could hit this. The computer doesn't know what it's talking about. I can probably hit 10 kilos more, right? Like I need someone to check me. Other lifters need someone to push them. But that human element, I think, is really important. But hey, I mean, I got started with free bodybuilding.com programs, right? So like something like this, where I can kind of tweak it and have, even if it's not a real person, some input on it rather than just my own or going, I don't want to do that. Probably not the worst thing. Really the other thing that you've helped me a lot with is bringing up lagging muscle groups or technique issues or whatever it is, and kind of those targeted exercises that really select those issues. I don't even know how to self-diagnose that for myself, right? I can look at someone else doing the same technique area that I am and pick it out pretty easily. With me, I go, it's me, it's fine. So I think that's another place where a coach really can help. And there's not really an AI answer to that yet, right? Of analyzing a squat video and saying, you have weak quads, we need to build those up, or whatever it is.
Programming a variation that that isn't going to require like a ton of cueing, right? Like, so maybe one that just comes to mind right off my top of my head is like, someone is struggling like with their center of mass on a squat. Like I'm gonna go to like a tempo squat and just be like, we're just gonna slow down the movement really slow, so you can actually like feel what you're doing, the movement, and notice when you lose that center of mass, because like you're gonna self-correct. You're gonna be like, I lost like my footing right there, or like I got onto my toes, I got onto my heels. So that's definitely like when that human element helps for sure. Programming variations that are actually going to be useful for you, the lifter. And that's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, and I'd even argue the implementation of those, for me, you often program mid-shin pause deadlifts.
Yep.
And at first it didn't really seem to help, because my only issue would come when I'm really amped up for a top single, I'm really hyped, my hips shoot up early, the bar tips away. And then we program it for like a 3x5 mid-shin pause, and it's like, there's no issue here. This feels just as easy as my normal deadlifts. It's fine. Then you'd start giving me like a heavy pause single before my main deadlift work. And all of a sudden it's, I gotta stay disciplined here, I gotta keep my hips in position, and that starts to build, right? So the actual implementation, getting really into the nitty gritty of that, is something that I'm unable to do for myself, much less have AI kind of build that. Because you need to diagnose the issue and tell the AI what the problem is, as well as maybe give some guidance on how to fix it. There's a lot more work involved than I think some people might realize with getting that all together.
Yeah, definitely helps to just have the coach look at your actual lifting and see where those deficiencies are, for sure.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, I think that kind of wraps up our conversation on at least ChatGPT AI programming. But we'll keep talking about kind of different programming methodologies, and maybe we'll get into some steroid talk here with some more knowledgeable SoCal members than you or I. Because, dude, I love that shit. Lifetime natty, lifetime clean, but I'm so interested I could listen to steroid for hours, so I'm bummed ChatGPT didn't let us get into that today. Any kind of final thoughts there?
No, that's it. Cool.
We'll wrap it up.